brought to you by Michelob ULTRA, the official beer sponsor of the NBA, my favorite league. The NBA Cup, not only is it underway, the semifinals are this weekend in Vegas. Michelob ULTRA courtside, ready to get fans closer to the action. Sign up for Michelob ULTRA for a chance to win courtside seats, a trip to the Paris Global Game. That sounds fun. A trip to All-Star Weekend and other prizes. Check out michelobultra.com/courtside for your chance to get closer to the game than ever before. I'm going to open a six-pack. 6 things I've noticed, 6 things I want to talk about. We hit a little of it with Jacoby and Goldsberry on Tuesday night's podcast. Specifically, we talked about Jimmy Butler and Golden State and how from a Golden State standpoint, you saw it last night too. I think they have a 2 to 3 year window here with Curry and Draymond to compete for a title. Whether they're going to win a title remains to be seen, but they need one more offensive player, somebody who could take the burden. You saw in the game last night, they're up 6 with 2.5 minutes left, and just some of the worst possessions you could possibly have. They become very easy to stop at the end of the game. So Jimmy Butler is somebody that makes sense for them and kind of fits in him, Draymond, and some role players. You can kind of see it. It's not nothing. So he makes $48.8 million this year, and he has a player option. The player option's key because everybody thinks that he's either going to opt out at the end of the year and become a free agent, or he'll want to do an extension with Miami, which Miami clearly doesn't want to do because they've had a year and a half to do it. Okay, so we talked about some of the apron stuff on Tuesday and how hard it is to make trades in the NBA right now. And I was saying how, on the one hand, I kind of like it because it's a little more like the NFL. Guys are kind of stuck in their situations. You can't just decide you're unhappy in a month and be, I want to go somewhere else. You look at Brandon Ingram, you look at Zach LaVine. These are guys that are actually, Ingram just got hurt, but guys that were playing pretty well in situations that they weren't happy with because they didn't really have any other choice. And that could be how it plays out with Jimmy Butler. On the other hand, we've already seen that he can get a little frisky if he's not happy. I think Miami's feeling that pressure too. And if you're Miami, where are you going? You're light years away from the Boston, OKC, Cleveland group. You're not even really a second-tier contender. You're probably a second-and-a-half-tier contender. And maybe you could use Butler's contract. You could put Rozier with it. You could try to create a new world for yourself where you're basically just paying Hero and Bam and Duncan Robinson's last year, next year, and some other things. And you're under $110 million heading into free agency this summer with a lot of options. You might just want to blow it up and redo it. The problem is this apron stuff. And for Miami, it's not that bad because they are not hard capped. They're over the first apron. They're under the second apron, not hard cap, which means you can actually make 4 for 2s, 3 for 2s, 4 for 3s, all those kind of trades. But some of the teams that they would be trading with, it's just not realistic with the apron. Like Shams reported, he had Dallas and Phoenix and some teams that I just don't think there's any way, shape, or form that there's a trade to be had with either side because of the apron stuff and because of the lack of assets. But that did lead to Jimmy's agent, Bernie Lee, getting really mad at Shams, which I loved. He's one of the only agents that I actually like. Anyway, Golden State. So Golden State is hard capped at the first apron. I swear there's not going to be a test after this. And $1.7 million under the second apron, which is key because that means they can make 3 for 1s, 4 for 2s, stuff like that, as long as they don't pop over the second apron. I'm sorry, this is so much math. Here's the trade. It would be Wiggins and Kuminga and Melton, who's out for the year, right? So that's $46.6 million, and Jimmy's making $48.8 million. Well, that doesn't work for Golden State. They also only have 14 guys. So if they do a 4 for 1, they would have to then sign more guys to get to 14 because that's the rule. Well, that doesn't work either. So I don't really know how it works with Golden State unless they dump one of their guys, Kyle Anderson, Gary Payton, Moses Moody, who they just signed to an extension. They would have to dump somebody to a third team, and I always get suspicious when that becomes in play. This is why Houston just seems like such the logical team to me. And I know they're on a high right now. They just made the NBA Cup semifinals with some help from Bill Kennedy. Great call. Always want to call that loose ball foul when guys dive on each other, which never gets called ever. You definitely want to decide a game that way. Great job by him. The problem for Houston right now is the end of the game stuff. And you saw it yesterday. They're, as I've said before, they're probably my favorite league pass team. But the end of the game stuff is where it gets a little dodgy with them. And a lot of that has to do with Fred VanVleet, who just has not been that good this year. 16 points a game, all shooting stats are down. And he's also a team option for next year at $42.9 million. So you could actually use Van Vliet as part of a mega trade, right? So they have Steven Adams at 12.6. They have Green and Tate 8 and 7.5 that are expiring. They have a lot of options to do. They also have a ton of picks. They have a couple Brooklyn picks, they have a couple Phoenix picks. They own some of their own first. So they have a lot of flexibility and maneuverability. And the trade that I created, being the Picasso of the trade machine, if it's Van Vliet and it's Adams is expiring and Tate's expiring and Cam Whitmore, who I actually like, who's just buried because he's got the Terra twins in front of him, Jalen Green, and you get Butler and Rozier back, and you put a pick in that trade, and Miami is saving $7 million just on that deal. Plus, they get a pick. They get to look at Whitmore. They get Van Vliet. They get to kind of stay peripherally competitive this year. They could still move Van Vliet in a 1-for-1 trade if they wanted to, if it was a salary close. That trade makes sense to me for both sides because it allows Miami to reboot. It allows Houston to end up with Butler, Brooks, Şengün, Green, Rozier, Jabari, the Terra twins, and Landale. And I already had them third or fourth in the West anyway. And I like Van Vliet. Oh, I forgot Shepherd too. I like Van Vliet, but I think they could get by without him. And you put Butler, and Butler now becomes the end of the game guy. I think he'd have a chip on his shoulder. That's the trade I'm rooting for. I just think that's a fun trade for everybody. Plus, it would be yet another Miami situation where they're doing a reboot and it seems like it's bleak and they're done. And then all of a sudden they're a 55-win team again because they make two moves. Anyway, that is number one. Leading to number two, what the hell does Golden State do if they can't get Jimmy Butler? Because I think it's going to be really hard to pull off. You're going to have to trade a pick in a Jimmy Butler trade. You're going to have to trade another pick to get rid of the contract you need to make it happen, or put Podziemski, send him somewhere else to create the thing. Like, is it worth it to trade Wiggins and Kuminga and Melton and a pick and then send Podziemski somewhere else to get another asset to get Jimmy Butler? I don't think it is. My advice for them, the Brooklyn Nets are in a bizarre situation right now where they're playing really well and they're overachieving because Jordi Fernandez has been a revelation as a coach. It really reminds me of Will Hardy that first year in Utah, Brad Stevens his first year in Boston. We see this happen from time to time where the coach is just too good for the tank. So Brooklyn's going to have to start sabotaging their own team. And they have Cam Johnson, who's having the best year of his career. He's 19 a game, 45% three. Eye test looks the best he's been. 28 years old. He's a little older than I think you think he is. But if I was going State, I would audible and go after Cam Johnson and Schroeder and try to figure out, is there something we can do with Wiggins? Do we want to put Kuminga in that? If we don't want to pay Kuminga next year, could you turn Kuminga into Cam Johnson, basically? Could it be Kuminga and Melton for Cam Johnson? Is there some version of, would you rather pay Cam Johnson $22 million than Kuminga for $30? Do you try to get Schroeder in it? Could it be Wiggins, Melton, and an unprotected first for Johnson and Schroeder? Does Kuminga even need that bit? It just feels like Brooklyn Golden State seems like the matchup for me. So keep an eye on that. I don't think Golden State's going to be able to get a second star. I don't see a scenario where they get LeBron and Bronny back. LeBron and Bronny making $50 million combined. They'd have all the same problems that they would have trying to get Jimmy Butler that I just laid out. On top of the fact that LeBron is in his 22nd season and doesn't play defense anymore. So Brooklyn seems like the spot for them. I'm still bullish on this Golden State team, but Curry needs some help. Next thing. So the Wilt 50 Club, which I just created 1 second ago, where you have to play 50 games and you have to average 50 points, rebounds, and assists combined at least. And it is not as easy as you think, my friends. Just since the merger, Kareem did it 3 times. Highest was 56 in 1971. Luka did it last year, 52.9. Russ did it in his MVP season, 52.7. Bob McAdoo, 50.8 in 1975. Giannis is doing it right now, 50.1. Harden did it in 2019, 50.3. And Jokic, 56.1 right now, which would be the single highest number anyone has done since Wilt and Russell were playing. So the reason it's the Wilt 50 Club, Wilt has the top 6. Wilt has 10 in the top 11. Wilt averaged a 78.4 points, rebounds, assists combined in 1962. That's insane. Oscar Robertson did it 5 times. Pettit did it twice. Elgin did it twice. Walt Bellamy did it once. We don't count Walt Bellamy. Jordan's highest ever, 48.9. Shaq's highest ever, 47.1. Bird, 45.8. LeBron, 45.6. Kobe, 45.2. Just getting to 50 is really hard. I like the 50 club. Let's create it. Jokic right now, 32, 14, and 10. And he's shooting 56, 50, and 81%. 33.2 PER. This season's just insane. But I don't know how high this goes because it's too high right now. It's not going to he's not going to be continuing to do the stuff that he's been doing. It's not realistic. But could he end up 31, 13, and 9? Could he end up 32, 13, and 10? I don't know. I'm prepared for anything because nobody on that team could score. So the 50 club, I think Jokic, Kareem is the highest ever, 56.0. I think Jokic could potentially set the record. I'm in on the 50 club. All right, they wanted me to do a superior take, and I have one, of course. I've been thinking a lot about the fouling at the end of the game stuff because there was a Celtics-Cavaliers game, which has now become infamous. I think it was a week and a half ago. Celtics are down 4 with under 30 seconds left. There are 18 free throw attempts in the last 26 seconds. Both teams just were fouling each other. Everybody's like, nobody's going to shoot a 3. Well, I'll foul you too, and it just becomes a foul off. Final score was 115 and 111. There were 20 points scored in the last 26 seconds because of all the free throws. And I think I speak for everyone. This sucks. The free throw parade down the stretch is abominable, and it feels like it's getting worse. So how do we fix it? Well, I have a regular season fix for this. If you foul somebody in the last minute of a game, no matter what the score is, whether you're leading or trailing, the first free throw counts for 2 points. And that's it. And if you make it, you get basically the 2 points for the free throws. The game keeps going. If you miss it, you still get to shoot a second free throw, but that only counts for 1 point. So when we have these foul offs at the end, Peyton Pritchard gets fouled by Cleveland, even though they're up 4. If Pritchard hits 1, now it's a 2-point game. And that's how it goes. And I really think it would work. I don't know who would be against it. And let's speed these games up because the other option is the Elam ending, which nobody really understands. 2 points for your first free throw in the last minute of a game. Let's try it in the regular season. Let's see if it works. And if it works, we do it for the playoffs. That's my superior take. All right. 2 more things really quick. Who could be next year's out of nowhere young contender? So this would be a team playing right now that a year from now maybe would look like the Rockets right now as one of the best 4 teams in the West. The Rockets were 41 and 41 last year. Maybe it looks like OKC last year when they won 57 games. The year before they were 40 and 42. Maybe it looks like Memphis in 2022 when they won 56 games. The year before they were 38 and 34. So a team that's around 500, maybe a little bit lower, but has some pedigree, at least one young star with a chance to be like really great. Need to be around 500. Need to have some other fun pieces. And there's 2 candidates, one for each conference. The Pistons. This is a team Russillo has been very focused on. I always admire Russillo's love for weirdly compelling East Coast teams. Detroit's 10 for 15. Played a pretty hard schedule. They lost to Boston twice, lost to Milwaukee twice, lost to Cleveland, lost to Houston, lost to Memphis, lost to Orlando, split with the Knicks. And they've been hanging around a lot of these games. And Russillo's made this point in his pod, but these early afternoon, like 4 o'clock games, you're usually stuck with like whatever the 7 p.m. Eastern. So I've actually watched some Detroit and I've watched some Charlotte. And I like what Detroit has going. They don't have Monty Williams as a coach, which is the number one thing. But Cade's 24 points a game, 7 rebounds, 9 assists. He has hit every sort of ceiling you would have thought he was going to hit at this point. Shooting almost 40% from 3. Like he's just really good. He's somebody that you could build a team around. Beasley and Harris were 2 pretty smart free agent signings. They're averaging 30 a game and shooting 40% from 3. Jaden Ivey's been good. They have rebounding. And I wonder, like, if I'm them, fuck it. Do I do a trade? Do I try to get, Brandon Ingram's on a discount, Zach LaVine's on a discount, CJ McCollum's on a discount? Do I think about Jimmy Butler? They don't have to worry about any of this apron stuff. This could be another Cam Johnson team. This is actually kind of a perfect Cam Johnson team. I wonder if Detroit is going to look at what happened with Orlando and OKC the last couple of years and what's happening with Houston this year and think like, wonder if we make one move here, could our ceiling increase, especially if Miami goes backwards? Indiana's already gone backwards. Could we be a top 16 potentially? So I'm watching them. The other team is obviously San Antonio, who's 12-12, which is surprising because I haven't really enjoyed watching them. Sohan, Castle, and Johnson shooting 27% from three combined. Chris Paul, better season than we expected, but he's old and who knows with him. But the foundation I like. They have Wemby and Castle and Harrison Barnes and Pauls. They have some good vets. They have a couple heat check dudes, and they have a lot of picks. They have a shitload of picks. And I wonder, is that a Cam Johnson team? Probably not a Jimmy Butler team, but could it be like a CJ McCollum team? I'm watching them to see, are they just going to be happy to be a 500 team again? I don't know why they would be, because they're going to be too good to tank. They're not going to be in the top 5 or top 6. So maybe think about going for it. Which leads me to the sixth and last thing for the six pack. Atlanta, a team that I really liked before the season. You probably remember from the over-under pod. House and I went all in on their over. A team that I mentioned last week when House and I, after $1 million picks, we talked about NBA futures. I doubled down when I was in Denver last week on FanDuel with the Atlanta over-under stuff because it was 38.5. Right now, they're 14-12. They upset the Knicks last night, and it wasn't even really an upset. I thought they kind of dominated them in the second half, and I really do wonder if that was a playoff series. I would be super scared if I was the Knicks because they don't really have a way to control the Trae Young dribble penetration, whatever we're calling it these days. Their wings kind of match up against the Knicks wings, the Atlanta wings. They have rebounding. It's just, I think that's a dangerous matchup for them. They're third in pace, which I like, and I wonder if Atlanta has a real chance to become this year's Pacers. The key for them, two things. One is the three-point shooting. Daniels is only at 31%. Reece Shea is 28%. Trae's 31%, which is bad. Hunter has been overachieving. He's 45%. But can those swings start hitting more threes? Then secondly, what are we getting from Trae? I think this is it. I think we've hit the let's figure this out once and for all moment with Trae, almost like a political candidate for an election. He's been dining off that conference finals thing for a few years now, which I think we all know happened because Embiid was super banged up. There were a couple fluky games, and Ben Simmons basically had a basketball mental breakdown and just completely lost it for whatever reason. Trae this year, 21-12, 12 assists a game, solid. 38% shooting, 31% from three, which doesn't stop him from launching the 29-footers. Free throws are down to 6 a game. They used to be at 9. Turnovers, highest they've ever been, 4.6. And with all of that said, this is the perfect team for him. He's got swings everywhere. He's got a bunch of guys to protect him on defense. Daniels, whoever the other team's point guard is, you saw it with the Knicks game with Brunson. Daniels can guard every team's point guard, small guard, whoever it is. Mitchell, Garland, name a guy. You can put Daniels on him. They're playing the Bucks. He can guard Dame Lillard. He can guard anybody in the league who's under 6'8". And Jalen Johnson, if you're ranking the swings, Jalen Johnson, Daniels, OG Anunoby, and Bridges, I think I would take Jalen Johnson over the other three guys. And Daniels is going to be a first-team All-NBA defense guy. So, perfect spot for Trae. He's got rebounding. He's got shot blocking. He's got lob guys. He's got tall, interchangeable shooters all over the place. And I was thinking, like, what would the trade be? Should maybe they go get Cam Johnson? It's like, I'm not even sure they need to do a trade, especially now that Bogdanovich is back and they have some 6-man scoring stuff. It really comes down to Trae Young. How good is he? Because he is in the perfect race car for him right now. And maybe over the course of these next 20, 25 games, he's going to start figuring it out. He's a guy that you saw in the Knicks game in MSG. The bigger the stage, the more he seems to like it, whether he's missing 29-footers or not. He's him and LaMelo are the two irrational confidence superstars that we have right now. And if we're ever going to find out that Trae Young can be a real piece on a team that wins 50 games and actually competes in a real way, it should start happening right around now. So maybe we'll see it. Maybe we'll see it on Saturday against Milwaukee in the NBA Cup. Anyway, that was today's 6 major things. Remember, Michelob Ultra Courtside gets you closer to the game than ever before. Check out MichelobUltra.com/courtside to learn how you can get closer to the action. Enjoy responsibly. 2024 Anheuser-Busch. Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri. Michelob Ultra Superior Access Courtside 24-25 sweepstakes. No purchase necessary. Open U.S. residents 21 plus begins on 10/1/24 and ends on 7/1/25. Multiple entry periods. Visit MichelobUltra.com/courtside for free entry. Entry deadlines and official rules. Message and data rates may apply. Void where prohibited.